they were saying, okay, we shall move on. And without that kind of encouragement, we would have given up on the transaction. I remember one particular case where we had to call some people in the middle of the night so that we can be able to get some things done. And I'm grateful that this happened at the end of the day. But before I stop to say what I have to say, let me say thank you very much to the Kengen board. The Kengen board was very resilient. Tell the chairman we are very grateful because we were not giving the Kengen board a lot of hope. At times we were giving them despair instead of hope. But the board was very, very resilient. And they kept on course, and we are grateful that they encouraged us. The senior management team led by the MD, I remember one time when things were looking very bad, but the MD said we must succeed. Thank you very much, Bwana MD, for keeping us, because we were actually, to be honest, with all my years in the market, and let me confess now so that you know my age, I have done more than 28 years in the market. If you want to put it in perspective, then you can add the rest, and then you know my age. I've never done a transaction in such a strong bear market. This was the worst bear that I have experienced, and you are right in the middle of a transaction. Now, and there's nothing you can do about when the market is falling. There's nothing. John kept saying, what are the price enhancement strategies? And he kept talking and strategies. And the more he talked, the more it went down. So, actually, if people are not as strong as what we saw from John, from the MD, we would have long given up. But I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, this is a culmination of a lot of resolve by many people. There was a lot of will to get it right. There was no room for failure. Thank God, John, for making it clear that there was no room for failure. And I can go on. I had promised to talk very few things, didn't I? And I forgot. So enjoy your evening.
Good evening, all. Now, I'm not sure that I've got a lot to say after these wonderful speakers who are here. And so Mary and the others prepared a speech for me, but she was very nice and spoke everything that she put on my speech. Because if you look at the programs that are before you, Mary was supposed to talk for 5 minutes. He took 15. I was supposed to talk for 15 minutes, so she has done all my speech. And of course, John and all that. But I'm happy about that. Now, Job, I have a little problem with you because I thought we employed you as our advisor. But now it appears like you're on another payroll. You're advising Image to charge us a little more. So I think there's an issue there for us to resolve. Now, Frank, you asked something and what I've gained through this. And let me confess, I've actually gained some weight. You may not believe it, but it's for a fact. Why? Because I've not been to the golf course throughout this year. The last time I was 2nd. So I've not done any exercises since 2nd of January. So as a result of that, I've gained some weight. You may not believe it, but that's for a fact. I've had a few kilos added on in the course of this exercise. And that's despite the fact that I've slept less hours because of this issue. But anyway, that's part of the job. When you ask for the job and challenges come, you just do them that way. Job asked, what is it that we give you very hard assignments? But you know, if you look at our strategy, we call it good to great. So when a company wants to become great, you know, it just means the assignment that it will be doing will not be the ordinary assignment, isn't it? So I believe that as long as we are on this journey to greatness, our assignments will always be a little difficult. And Job, I can assure you this is not the last one. We may not know what's next, but I'm sure there are still a few more hard assignments that are on the way. And I've learned a lot of things throughout this journey, actually quite a few things, which is good because learning is a daily thing. And as somebody has said, from the time you come from the womb to the time you get to the tomb, you'll continue learning. And if you don't, then something is wrong. So through this exercise, I've learned a number of things. One of them is one of these things that has been alluded to. When things are very difficult, what do? Do you then cry and sit there and say, well, I'm giving up, or what do you do? Job has just said that one of the most difficult things we went through was the fact that the market was very bearish, and very badly so for that matter. And just like somebody said, I think it was John, that there was this pressure. Are you sure this is what you should be doing at this time? I didn't know what to say. I do remember that at one time, Frank talked about going to the TV stations, and there was a time they kept arranging for me to go and talk to people on the TV, and I said, to be honest, I don't want to. And there was one reason. It doesn't matter whether we are talking about the 140 megawatts, which was a great project, 280 megawatts. It doesn't matter what we are talking about. There was always a question. When is the rights issue? And if you give them an answer, then they start telling you, what is the price? And they know very well that I don't have that. So at one point, the issue about the rights, it became something like I didn't want to be asked about. And yet people are not tired of asking about it. They're always asking about it, and I didn't want to tell them. So it wasn't very easy for me. But one thing was that it was like what you call in strategy a burning platform. You are up there, you can see the fire is down there in the drilling rig. You have a choice to either jump and get to the sea. You may perish there. But if you stand on that platform, you're going to burn anyway. So it's up for you to decide what to do. And in this case, that is the way like we're feeling. It's not the right time, yes, but what choice do we have? But I still remember that there was a time I really felt cheated. Job, we must make confessions here, David. We must make confessions. When we started this project, you came up with a program. And I still remember that one of the programs that was there was about how to ramp up the price. And we had a strategy for ramping up the price. Because you see, when he decided to go for the rice issue, and Simon was here, I was sitting in the office where I sat, and we had those very interesting moments with Kabaki and team trying to do the papers that we took to the treasury. The price was good, but then we start the project and the price is not very good. So these our advisors came up with a price ramping strategy. What is the opposite of ramping up? What is the real? Or you don't have that one? Falling. So now, the opposite was happening. So at one point, we really were looking at these guys and telling them, why your strategy is not working? Can you tell us how we are going to do this? And unfortunately, they didn't. And anyway, that's history, because today we are here to celebrate. But at one time, I was wondering, now, we are paying these people for the work to be done, and the major part of it was the ramp-up strategy. And this strategy is not working, so what shall we do? But we didn't get discouraged, and we continued. And thank you very much for everyone who is here and everybody who worked so hard to ensure that despite all those difficulties, we can be here today to celebrate. I will never forget the 23rd of May when we launched this, and the CS Treasury was there, and the government was handing us, that symbol of the 20.2 that was being converted. And remember, that was quite something, to achieve, because without that support from government, it was going to be very difficult to go through this rice issue. And I remember that at one point, for us to finalize the information memoranda, we had been told we really must even have that signed. So it was very good to receive the support that we received from government. I was not able to come, Mary, for the team building, but I was with you in the spirit, although I don't really like spirits attending too many meetings, because imagine everybody sending a spirit in your meeting, and you have a meeting with the spirit. Anyway, I was with you nevertheless. I've heard a lot of things about that team building, and maybe it was right. You needed to build the team because the journey ahead was quite tough, and it reminds me about a story in the Bible of a prophet who was called Elijah, and God allowed him to have some food, some little food, and he said it was okay. But God told him, no, just take a little more because the journey that's ahead of you is very long. And he did eat and ate and ate and ate. And what he didn't know is that for the next 40 days, he was going to have nothing to eat. So I think it was good that you started with the team building, because the journey ahead was going to be so difficult that you needed everything and techniques that you learned in the team building. And we are here today to celebrate the fact that, yes, you made it. You said, yes, we can, and we moved together, and were able to do it. So I want to thank the team, the core team that Mary led, and together with the advisors and the Kengen team, for all the effort that you made. And we are here today because you persisted. Towards those last days, I know I talked to Mary the night we sat in my office, and she was sharing the time that she went or didn't go to bed for a night, and saying that was it. I think that was the first night you say that you had worked right through. And I was giving her some of my experiences of a night that, that was similar that I had. And that hard work, sometimes or many times, there are things you do. And in as much as the reward that comes may be probably very unexpected, but there's something that comes when you know that you've achieved and you feel very satisfied that you are part of a team that achieved something that is great. The things we are hearing, Job talking, the IPO, the infrastructure, and now the rights issue. And you want to be associated with it. Of course, you can imagine that if you didn't put your best, even though you're rejoicing with the others, the joy is not as great as if you really know that you did your best. And that is why it's always good to put the very best that you can, so that when the success is there, from deep within your heart, you can know that you put in your best. David here, we had the opportunity to travel together, and I can say, yes, David, thanks you. You really did it. You put in your best. John told you of a trip we made, and I've been telling people that that's one time I left from the suitcase. You didn't have time to unpack, because you're in one room today, tomorrow you're in another one. So why unpack your clothes? And so you just pick what you have and put it on, and you move on to the next stage. And also very interesting to be able to have your lunch in the vehicle, As you're moving from one meeting to another, you take that sandwich, not food. John doesn't consider sandwich to be food. Actually, there was a day we ate sandwiches, and when we went for dinner, David said, no, I had a big lunch. And you were like, what? Big lunch of 2 sandwiches when John is longing for the chicken and ugali, and it's not there, So we saw a lot of hard work from the people that we worked with, very, very hard work. to see, this thing succeed. And as we were ringing the bell last week, it's actually a week, 1 week exactly, again, a big joy to say that, oh, now we've come to this moment that we'd all waited for. And 92%, in an exam, 92 is actually a very good A, isn't it? Please, let's clap for ourselves. Yeah, because it was a success in every way. Of course, we'd have liked 100%, but we didn't get 100%. But even the 92% was a great thing. And what we've done is that this will help us a lot to achieve our objective of the projects that we put down to do. It will help us get a little more money from the lenders now that we've a bit of equity, and it will assist us in the projects that we're doing. We've mentioned and we always repeat that the country has given us a lot of responsibility in terms of giving sufficient energy to this nation. Yeah, the nation is looking to us, the government is trusting us, and I'm not surprised that the government really supported us, because it's been able to see what Kengen is doing, what Kengen can do. And perhaps because of the projects we've been able to deliver, and the government knew that as we raise this money, it's going to still go towards creating more power for this nation. And we need that energy for the country to develop. And that's one of the things really that drives the teams that are here, to see that the responsibility that the nation has given to us, we're able to fulfill that. And this exercise we're on is not in vain. It was to help us in that very big objective that we had. So I'm very grateful to the government, particularly, the National Treasury and our ministry in particular, because they worked together very, very hard. And even at the very initial time of 2013, when Simon was sitting as the acting MD, and those many hours they spent trying to put things together, and for me trying to tell them these are the projects we are trying to do, going to our ministry to convince them on what is it to be done. And there were different options that were there, by the way. Some were not agreed upon, but finally they agreed that perhaps the best thing is to convert some of the loans to equity. And when that was finally agreed upon, it took quite a bit of time before the cabinet approved it. But we thank God and thank the government that finally it was approved. And for that, we could have the success that we have today. Now, part of the things that Mary was to do also was to thank all the people that you listed here. But Mary has done it, and she did it very well. But I really want to say that for our advisors, SIB and RENCAP, the lead brokers, Diane Blair and Faida, our legal people, Walter Contos, and our PR team. And I know that even for you, we didn't spare you. There were times we felt like you're not doing enough, but I know that you did your best. The advertising